The massive space station called Nexus Prime hung in the darkness like a giant metal ring. It was bigger than most moons and spun slowly around a dying red star. Ships from 12 different alien species docked at its ports. Today was special. Today, the Galactic Council would meet to decide who controlled what parts of space. Ambassador Thexmar of the Velkari Empire walked through the station's halls. His blue skin gleamed under the bright lights. Behind him, 2 guards carried plasma, rifles that could melt through solid steel. The Velkari had ruled this part of the galaxy for 3,000 years. Their ships had the best weapons. Their shields could stop anything. Everyone feared them. In another part of the station, Queen Speaker Zixilla clicked her sharp legs on the metal floor. She looked like a giant insect with 4 arms and glowing red eyes. The Hirani Collective had more ships than anyone else. Millions of bug-like creatures served her. They built hives on dead planets and turned them into war factories. The crystal beings from the Morvek Republic floated through the air. They did not need to walk. Their leader, Prime Crystal Kethnos, could bend reality with his mind. He could make things appear and disappear. His people controlled quantum weapons that could destroy entire solar systems. All these powerful aliens gathered in the great meeting hall. The room was huge, with seats for hundreds of representatives. Holographic displays showed maps of the galaxy. Different colors marked which species controlled which areas. Most of the galaxy belonged to the old, powerful races. Only small sections remained unclaimed. Captain Deho entered the hall quietly. He was human, and he looked very small compared to the aliens around him. His brown hair was neat, and he wore a simple blue uniform. No fancy armor, no glowing weapons. Just a regular human from a planet called Earth. Behind him walked Admiral Yunji. She was older, with gray streaks in her black hair. Her eyes were sharp and alert. She had fought in wars, but the aliens did not know this. To them, she looked weak. Dr. Boram came last. She carried a small device that recorded everything. She was young and curious, looking around at all the alien technology with wonder. The aliens thought she was funny. How could such a primitive creature understand their advanced science? The meeting began. Thexmar stood up first. His voice boomed across the hall. We gather today to discuss territory. The Outer Rim sectors need new management. The Velkari Empire is ready to take control. Queen Speaker. Zixilla's voice buzzed like angry bees. The collective needs those systems. Our hives will grow there. We will bring order. Prime Crystal Kethnos spoke without moving his mouth. His words appeared directly in everyone's minds. The Republic requires those resources for our quantum experiments. Reality itself depends on our research. The 3 species began to argue. Their voices grew louder. Other aliens took sides. Some supported the Velkari because they feared their weapons. Others backed the Hirani because of their huge fleets. A few chose the Morvek because their reality-bending powers were terrifying. Captain Deho raised his hand. The arguing stopped. Everyone looked at him with surprise and amusement. Excuse me, Deho said politely. Humanity would like to participate in this discussion. Laughter filled the hall. Not friendly laughter, but the kind that makes fun of someone. Thexmar wiped tears from his blue eyes. Humans? You want territory? Your species just learned to travel between stars. You have no real weapons. Your ships are made of simple metal. Your technology is thousands of years behind ours, buzzed Zixilla. What could you possibly offer? Kethnos projected his thoughts with amusement. Humans still use nuclear fusion for power. We abandoned that technology before your son was born. More laughter echoed through the hall. The aliens shared stories about human technology. They had seen human ships, small metal boxes with primitive rockets, no energy shields, no plasma cannons, no quantum drives, just basic engineering. That barely worked. Dr. Boram spoke up. Our science may be different, but it works well for us. An alien scientist from the Yorthak Federation stood up. He had tentacles instead of arms and 3 eyes. Different? Your physics theories are wrong. You claim space can be folded. Impossible. You say time can be changed. Ridiculous. You believe matter and energy are the same thing. Laughable. The other aliens nodded in agreement. Human science was clearly backward. How could a species that thought such silly things ever threaten anyone? Admiral Yunji watched everything quietly. She made notes on a small pad. The aliens thought she was writing down their superior technology. They did not know she was recording their weaknesses. The meeting continued. The powerful species divided up the galaxy among themselves. They gave humans a tiny section in the outer rim, far from any important planets. No valuable resources. No strategic locations, just empty space with a few dead rocks. This is very generous, said Thexmar with fake kindness. Perfect for a young species like yours. You can practice ruling these worthless systems. Captain Deho looked at the territory offer on the holographic display. 3 small solar systems with nothing but asteroid fields and gas clouds. The aliens expected him to be grateful. Instead, Deho stood up calmly. Thank you for this offer. However, I need to discuss this with Earth Command before we can accept. The aliens looked confused. Earth Command? What kind of military could humans possibly have? How long do you need? Asked Thexmar, trying not to laugh again. 72 hours should be enough, replied Deho. The alien leaders agreed quickly. They wanted to get rid of the humans so they could fight over the real territory. A 3-day delay meant nothing to beings who lived for thousands of years. Very well, announced the council speaker, an ancient creature with 4 heads. The assembly will reconvene in 72 hours. Dismissed. As the aliens left the hall, they whispered among themselves. The humans were even more pathetic than expected. Who needed 3 days to accept such a generous gift? Clearly, they had to ask permission from their primitive leaders back home. Captain Deho, Admiral Yunji, and Dr. Boram walked back to their ship. The Soul's Pride was docked in the smallest bay, surrounded by massive alien vessels. It looked like a tiny metal can next to gleaming warships. Did you send the message? Asked Yunji quietly. Deho nodded. Admiral Sang-min received our signal. Project Goliath is ready. Dr. Boram smiled as she looked at her recordings. They have no idea what's coming. The 3 humans boarded their small ship and sealed the airlock. Around them, alien crews prepared for the coming territorial wars. They sharpened their weapons and charged their shields. They expected to fight each other for control of the galaxy. None of them noticed the strange readings appearing on their deep space sensors, energy signatures unlike anything in their databases, gravitational anomalies that made no sense. Reality itself seemed to be shifting somewhere in the direction of human space. The aliens dismissed these readings as equipment errors. After all, what could humans possibly be doing that would affect space itself? They were just a primitive species with backward technology and silly scientific theories. In 72 hours, they would learn how wrong they were. The universe was about to discover what happened when humans decided to solve a problem. The galaxy would never be the same again. Far beyond the orbit of Neptune, in the cold darkness of outer space, something impossible was happening. Massive construction platforms floated in perfect formation around a structure that should not exist. The building was so large that Earth's moon could fit inside one of its weapon bays. Fleet Admiral Sang-min stood on the command bridge, watching the final preparations. He was an old man with scars on his face from humanity's first contact with alien probes 3 years ago. Those probes had attacked Earth's outer colonies without warning. They had been scouts from the Velkari Empire testing human defenses. The aliens thought they had destroyed all evidence of their visit. They did not know that humans never forgot an attack on their home. Status report, ordered Sang-min. Commander Yun-Su looked up from her control panel. She was young but brilliant, chosen to operate the most advanced ship humanity had ever built. All systems are green, Admiral. The micro-black hole is stable. Power output is at maximum capacity. The ship they stood on was called Terra's Wrath. It was humanity's first Colossus-Class vessel. 200 kilometers long and 50 kilometers wide, it was more like a mobile space city than a traditional warship. Its hull was made of programmable matter that could repair itself and change shape when needed. Dr. Hyunwoo worked at his station nearby. He was the scientist who had created the ship's most terrifying weapons. Quantum cascade generators are ready, he reported. We can begin reality manipulation on your command, Sang-min nodded. 3 years of secret construction had led to this moment. While the galaxy saw humans as primitive metalworkers, Earth's greatest minds had been developing technology that would redefine what was possible. The ship's power source was a controlled micro-black hole, spinning in a special chamber at the vessel's center. It generated more energy than most alien civilizations used in a year. But the real breakthrough was not the power source. It was what humans had learned to do with that power. "Begin activation sequence," ordered Sang-Min. Throughout the massive ship, systems came online. The quantum cascade generators hummed with barely contained energy. These devices could manipulate the basic forces that held reality together. While aliens had learned to control matter and energy, humans had learned to control the rules that governed matter and energy. Space around the Terra's wrath began to shimmer. The ship's hull flowed like liquid metal as programmable matter adjusted to optimal configurations. Gravity sensors throughout the solar system detected impossible readings. Reality itself was bending around the human vessel. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Tae-Soo monitored the black hole containment. "Gravitational field is stable," he reported. "No dimensional leakage detected." The micro-black hole was not just a power source, it was also a gateway. Human scientists had discovered that space could be folded by manipulating gravity in precise ways. The Terra's wrath could travel through dimensions that aliens did not know existed. "Dr. Hyun-woo," called Sang-Min. "Explain the cascade effect one more time." The scientist turned from his controls. "The quantum cascade generators can change the fundamental constants of physics in targeted areas. We can make the strong nuclear force weaker, causing matter to fall apart. We can reverse gravity, creating impossible stresses. We can even alter the flow of time in small regions." Sang-Min smiled grimly. "And the aliens think we are primitive." "They measure advancement by energy output and material strength," replied Hyun-woo. "They never considered that someone might learn to change the rules instead of just using them." The ship's navigation officer, Lieutenant Min Seo, looked up from her station. "Admiral, we are receiving the signal from Nexus Prime. Captain Dae-ho is requesting our presence." "Excellent," said Sang-Min. "Commander Yoon-soo, take us to the assembly. Show them what humans can really do." The Terra's wrath began to move, but it did not travel through normal space. Instead, the ship folded reality around itself, creating a tunnel through dimensions that existed between the normal universe. From the outside, it looked like the massive vessel simply vanished into a tear in space itself. The journey to Nexus Prime should have taken weeks at faster-than-light speed. The Terra's wrath arrived in 6 hours. As the ship traveled, automated systems throughout human space received activation signals. On Mars, construction platforms began building a second Colossus-Class vessel. In the asteroid belt, mining ships started gathering materials for a third. Earth's secret project was not just one ship. It was an entire fleet of reality-bending warships. Dr. Soo-jin worked in the weapons laboratory deep inside the Terra's wrath. She was testing smaller versions of the cascade generators. "The handheld units are working perfectly," she reported to her team. "A single human soldier can now disable alien technology by changing the physics around it." The implications were staggering. Human infantry could walk through alien energy shields because they could make the shields forget how to work. Human ships could survive planet-killing weapons by altering the rules that made those weapons dangerous. In the medical bay, Dr. Young-hee studied alien biology samples. "Their cellular structure depends on quantum effects we can now control," she announced to her staff. "We could theoretically cure any alien disease by correcting the physics of their DNA. But healing was not the primary purpose of their research. If humans could fix alien biology, they could also break it in ways that no alien medical technology could repair." Admiral Sang-Min walked through the ship's corridors, inspecting the final preparations. The Terra's wrath was more than a weapon. It was proof that humanity had evolved beyond the limitations that trapped other species. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Jin-ho, "we are detecting massive panic signals from the Nexus Prime system. Multiple alien fleets are reporting sensor malfunctions." Sang-Min chuckled. "They are not malfunctions. Their instruments simply cannot measure what we have become." The Terra's wrath emerged from its dimensional tunnel at the edge of the Nexus Prime system. The ship's arrival sent ripples through space-time that every sensor in the area detected. To the aliens, it looked like a star had suddenly appeared and then transformed into something impossible. "Sir," reported Sensor Officer Hai Wan, "we are being scanned by over 300 alien vessels. Their targeting systems cannot lock onto us." "Of course not," replied Sang-min. "We exist in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Their three-dimensional targeting systems see only shadows of our true position." The Terra's wrath moved toward Nexus Prime like a mountain of living metal. Its hull shifted and flowed as programmable matter adjusted to optimal configurations. Occasionally, the ship seemed to flicker in and out of existence as it phased between dimensions. On the bridge, Commander Yun-Su prepared for the most important moment in human history. "Admiral, we are in position. All systems ready for demonstration." Sang-min looked out at the alien fleet surrounding Nexus Prime. Soon, those proud warriors would learn what it meant to face a species that had transcended the basic rules of reality. "Open communications," he ordered. "Let them see what humans have built." The message went out to every ship and station in the system. Admiral Tae-young's face appeared on screens throughout the alien fleets. Behind him, the bridge of the Terra's wrath gleamed with impossible technology. "This is Admiral Tae-young of the Human Colonial Defense Force," he announced calmly. "We appreciate the Assembly's territorial offer, but we have decided to make our own arrangements." The alien response was immediate and predictable. Panic, disbelief, and rage filled the communication channels. How dare these primitive humans challenge the established order? They were about to discover that the order had already changed. The universe now belonged to a species that could rewrite the laws of physics with the same ease that others fired energy weapons. The demonstration was about to begin. The 72 hours had passed. The great meeting hall of Nexus Prime filled with alien representatives once again. They talked and laughed as they prepared to finish dividing the galaxy among themselves. The humans would get their tiny corner of worthless space, and everyone could go back to the serious business of war and conquest. Ambassador Thexmar adjusted his ceremonial armor. The blue-skinned Velkari had already planned how to take the human territory once the primitive species inevitably failed to maintain control. "Today, we end this comedy," he told his aide. "The humans will accept our generous offer and crawl back to their little planet." Queen Speaker Zix-Illa clicked her mandibles with amusement. The insectoid leader had been entertained by human ignorance during the last session. "Perhaps we should offer them protection," she buzzed to her swarm guards. "Their metal ships cannot survive a real battle." Prime Crystal Kethnos floated silently above his seat. The crystalline being had been analyzing human technology during the recess. His conclusion was simple. Humans had achieved faster-than-light travel through luck and primitive engineering. They posed no threat to anyone. The massive doors of the assembly hall opened. Captain Dae-ho entered with his small human delegation. But something had changed. The polite, nervous diplomat from 3 days ago was gone. In his place walked a man with cold confidence in his eyes. Admiral Yun-ji followed behind him. Her expression was calm, but there was something dangerous in the way she moved. Dr. Boram carried the same recording device, but now she watched. The aliens like a scientist studying lab animals. The aliens noticed the change but dismissed it. Humans were probably just excited about getting their first real territory. How cute. Council Speaker Vorthak rose on his 4 legs. The ancient creature had witnessed 1,000 territorial negotiations. This would be another simple transaction. "The Assembly recognizes humanity's representative. Do you accept the generous offer of the Outer Rim sectors?" Captain Dae-ho walked to the center of the hall. Every alien eye watched him with bored attention. "Thank you for the offer," he said clearly. "However, humanity declines." Silence filled the massive room. Then nervous laughter began to spread. Among the alien delegates, the humans were rejecting free territory? Had they lost their minds? "Perhaps you did not understand," said Thexmar with fake patience. "We are giving you 3 entire solar systems, for free, no payment required." "We understood perfectly," replied Dae-ho. "But those systems do not meet our requirements." More laughter. Queen Speaker Zix-Illa's voice buzzed with amusement. "Requirements? You have no fleet to enforce demands. You have no weapons to threaten us. What could primitives like you possibly require?" Before Dayho could answer, alarms began sounding throughout Nexus Prime. The station's sensors had detected something approaching the system. Something impossible. In the Fleet Command Center, Admiral Koreth of the Velkari Navy studied the readings, with growing confusion. "Sir," reported his sensor officer, "we are detecting massive gravitational anomalies. Something very large is approaching, but our scanners cannot identify it." "How large?" demanded Koreth. "Unknown, sir. The object appears to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Our instruments cannot get accurate measurements." Similar reports flooded in from every ship in the system. The Hirani Collective's hive ships detected energy readings that made no sense. The Morvek Republic's quantum sensors showed reality itself, bending around an unknown object. Back in the assembly hall, Captain Dayho smiled as emergency reports reached the alien delegates. "Gentlemen, I would like you to meet the Terra's Wrath." Through the great viewing windows, a shadow began to eclipse the dying red star. Something massive was approaching Nexus Prime. At first, it looked like an asteroid or small moon. Then the aliens realized it was moving with purpose and intelligence. The Terra's Wrath emerged from its dimensional tunnel like a mountain of living metal. 200 kilometers of impossible technology hung in space, its hull flowing and shifting as programmable matter adjusted to new configurations. The ship seemed to exist in multiple places at once, creating optical illusions that hurt alien minds to perceive. Ambassador Thexmar's blue skin turned pale. His advanced civilization had built ships up to 50 kilometers long. The human vessel was 4 times larger than anything in Velkari databases. Queen Speaker Zixilla's compound eyes focused on the impossible sight. The Hirani Collective had conquered galaxies with their vast fleets. But all of their ships combined could not match the size of this single human vessel. Prime Crystal Kethnos projected confusion and fear. His people could bend reality with their minds, but the human ship seemed to be bending reality with its mere presence. Space-time curved around the massive hull in ways that violated quantum mechanics. "Impossible," whispered the chief scientist of the Yorthak Federation. "That ship is too large to be structurally stable. The gravitational forces should tear it apart." Dr. Boram looked up from her recording device. "Only if you assume normal matter and standard physics," she said helpfully. "We learned to work around those limitations." Communication requests flooded the Terra's Wrath from every alien fleet in the system. They demanded to know what the humans had built. How had a primitive species created technology that defied understanding? Admiral Tae Young's image appeared on every screen in the assembly hall. Behind him, the bridge of the Terra's Wrath gleamed with impossible technology. Control panels made of flowing light. Holographic displays that showed mathematics no alien scientist recognized. Crew members who seemed to manipulate reality with casual gestures. "This is Admiral Tae Young of the Human Colonial Defense Force." His voice echoed through the station. "We appreciate the Assembly's territorial offer, but we have decided to make our own arrangements. Any vessel that interferes with human operations will be disabled. This is your only warning." The alien delegates erupted into chaos. Voices rose in a dozen different languages as species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia tried to process what they were seeing. "This is a trick!" shouted Thexmar. "Humans cannot build ships like that." "Some kind of illusion," buzzed Zixilla. "Their primitive minds are trying to frighten us." But their military advisors were already reporting the impossible truth. The Terra's Wrath was real. Its energy output was beyond measurement. Its technology operated on principles that violated everything they knew about physics. Captain Dayho's voice cut through the noise. "The human requirements are simple. We will take whatever territory we need for our continued expansion. We will establish colonies wherever we choose. Any species that threatens human citizens will face immediate consequences." "You cannot make demands," roared Admiral Koreth over the communication system. "The Velkari Empire has ruled this sector for 3,000 years. "The Velkari Empire rules because no one has challenged you," replied Admiral Yunji calmly. "That situation has now changed." On the viewing screens, the Terra's Wrath began to move closer to Nexus Prime. The massive ship cast shadows across the station as it approached. But more terrifying than its size was what the ship did to space around. It reality bent. Light curved in impossible directions. Time seemed to flow differently near the human vessel. Alien sensors detected energy fields that had no names in any scientific database. "How?" whispered Prime Crystal Kathnos, his mental voice filled with disbelief. "How did you build this?" Dr. Boram smiled. "We asked different questions than you did. You learned to control matter and energy. We learned to control the rules that govern matter and energy. The implications hit the alien scientists like a physical blow. If humans could manipulate the fundamental constants of physics, then every weapon, every defense, every technology the galaxy had developed was obsolete." Commander Yunsu's voice came from the Terra's wrath. "Admiral Tae Young, the Velkari fleet is moving to intercept us. Should we demonstrate our capabilities?" The assembly hall fell silent. Every alien delegate held their breath. Were they about to witness the destruction of the most powerful fleet in known space? Admiral Tae Young considered the question carefully. "Not yet, Commander. Give them time to make a wise decision." But deep in the Terra's wrath, weapons systems that could rewrite reality were already charging. The quantum cascade generators hummed with barely contained power. If the aliens chose violence, they would learn why humans had become the most dangerous species in the universe. The demonstration was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Korath of the Velkari Navy could not accept what he was seeing. For 3,000 years, his people had ruled this sector of space through superior firepower and advanced technology. No species had ever challenged their dominance. Certainly, not a group of primitives who still used metal ships and nuclear fusion. "All ships, battle formation," he commanded from the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Dominance. The massive warship was 50 kilometers long and armed with plasma cannons that could crack planets in half. Its shields had never been breached. Its hull was made of quantum-forged alloy that could withstand the heat of a star. Around the Crimson Dominance, 200 Velkari warships moved into attack position. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy Earth's entire moon. Together, they represented the most powerful fleet ever assembled in galactic history. "Sir," reported his weapons officer, "the human ship is not responding to our targeting systems. Our computers cannot lock onto it." Korath snarled with frustration. "Manual targeting, then. That ship may be large, but it is still just metal and circuits. Hit it with everything we have." In the assembly hall of Nexus Prime, the alien delegates watched in terrible fascination. Most had never seen the Velkari fleet in full battle formation. The sight should have been inspiring. 200 gleaming warships preparing to defend galactic civilization against an unknown threat. Instead, they felt only dread. Captain Dae Ho stood calmly in the center of the hall, watching the tactical displays with mild interest. "Admiral Korath is making a mistake," he said quietly. "Should we warn him?" asked Queen Speaker Zixilla. Despite her fear, she felt some responsibility to prevent unnecessary bloodshed. "We already did," replied Admiral Yunji. "Admiral Tae Young gave them fair warning. What happens next is their choice." On the Terra's wrath, Commander Yunsu monitored the approaching Velkari fleet with professional detachment. "Sir, they are powering weapons, plasma cannons charging to full capacity." Admiral Tae Young sighed. He had hoped the aliens would be reasonable, but fear and pride made poor advisors. "Lieutenant Commander Su Jin, prepare the cascade generators. Minimal power setting." "Minimal, sir?" Su Jin looked up from her weapons console. "That will only affect local space-time in a small radius." "That will be sufficient," replied Tae Young. "We want to educate, not exterminate." The Crimson Dominance opened fire first. Its main plasma cannon released a beam of superheated matter that could melt through the core of a planet. The beam struck the Terra's wrath directly in the center of its hull. Nothing happened. The plasma simply vanished as it touched the human ship's hull. The impossible energy beam, carrying the power of a small star, disappeared as if it had never existed. "Impossible!" shouted Korath. "Fire all weapons!" The entire Velkari fleet unleashed their combined firepower. 200 ships fired simultaneously. Plasma beams, quantum torpedoes, and gravitational bombs converged on the Terra's wrath. The energy release was so massive that it created its own small star for several seconds. When the light faded, the human ship remained completely undamaged. Not a scratch marked its flowing metal hull. "Sir," whispered the Velkari sensor officer, "the enemy ship absorbed all our weapons fire. Energy readings show 0 damage. Lieutenant Commander Su Jin smiled as she watched her defensive systems work perfectly. Cascade field is holding steady, she reported. All incoming energy is being redirected to alternate dimensions. The human ship had not blocked the alien weapons. It had simply changed the rules of physics around itself so that the weapons forgot how to cause damage. Matter and energy were still hitting the hull, but they were being translated into harmless forms that existed in dimensions the aliens could not perceive. Admiral Koreth's face turned dark blue with rage. "Ram them! If energy weapons will not work, we will crush them with our hull." The Crimson Dominance accelerated toward the Terra's wrath at maximum speed. 50 kilometers of quantum-forged metal moving like a giant spear aimed at the human vessel's center. Admiral Tae Young watched the approaching ship with calm patience. "Su Jin, activate the demonstration protocol." "Yes, sir." Quantum cascade. Generators at minimum effective power. The space around the Crimson Dominance began to shimmer. Reality itself started to break down in small, precise ways. The effect was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. First, the strong nuclear force, weakened in random spots throughout the Velkari ship. The quantum-forged hull, held together by the attraction between atomic nuclei, began to lose molecular cohesion. Sections of the mighty warship simply came apart at the subatomic level, then gravity reversed in localized pockets inside the ship. Internal structures that had been built to withstand incredible external pressure suddenly faced impossible forces from within. Bulkheads twisted into impossible shapes. Corridors folded in on themselves. Most horrible of all, time began to flow, differently in various parts of the ship. The bridge experienced time normally, while the engine room aged 1 second for every minute that passed. The crew watched in horror as their fellow officers either moved like statues or aged decades in moments. "What is happening to us?" screamed the engineering officer as his hair turned white and his skin wrinkled in seconds. Admiral Koreth tried to give orders, but his words reached different parts of the ship at different times. The communication system could not handle messages that arrived before they were sent or after the recipients had died of old age. Chief Science Officer Minho on the Terra's Wrath monitored the demonstration with scientific precision. "Cascade. Effect is proceeding as calculated," he reported. "The enemy vessel is experiencing localized breakdown of fundamental forces. The process was not random destruction. It was carefully controlled dissolution. The humans were showing the galaxy exactly what they could do to any ship, any station, any planet that threatened them. The Crimson Dominance did not explode. Explosions required consistent physics, and the space around the Velkari ship no longer followed consistent rules. Instead, the mighty warship simply ceased to exist in any meaningful way. Its matter was scattered across 17 different dimensions. Its crew was translated into states of being that had no words in any language. The 500,000 Velkari soldiers aboard the ship were not dead. Death was a concept that belonged to normal reality. They had been changed into something else entirely. Something that existed in spaces between dimensions, aware but unable to act, present but impossible to detect. The entire engagement lasted exactly 4.7 seconds. When it was over, empty space remained where the most powerful warship in galactic history had been. No debris, no energy signature, no trace that the Crimson Dominance had ever existed. The remaining Velkari fleet stopped moving. Their crews stared at the empty space where their flagship had been. Instruments detected nothing. Sensors showed only vacuum. But they all remembered a ship being there moments before. "Sir," whispered the communications officer aboard the Velkari destroyer Righteous Fury, "what are our orders?" The ship's captain, Admiral Vexthar, could not answer. His mind refused to process what he had witnessed. The strongest ship in their fleet had been erased from existence without the humans firing a single conventional weapon. In the assembly hall, the alien delegates sat in stunned silence. They had watched the pride of the Velkari Empire simply disappear. No battle, no heroic last stand, just casual, effortless removal from reality. Ambassador Thexamar's hands shook as he tried to speak. "How? How did you do that?" Dr. Boram looked up from her recording device. We changed the physics around your ship, made the forces that hold matter together work differently. Your weapons and shields are designed for normal space. They cannot function when the rules change. But the crew, whispered Queen Speaker Zixilla. What happened to the crew? They still exist, replied Captain Deho. Just not in this dimension. We could bring them back, but they would need extensive psychological treatment. Most minds cannot handle the experience of existing outside normal space-time. The implications crashed over the assembled aliens like a tidal wave. If humans could do this to one ship, they could do it to entire fleets, to space stations, to planets, to civilizations. The remaining Velkari ships began to retreat. Their crews had lost all will to fight. How could anyone battle an enemy that could rewrite the basic laws of reality? Admiral Tae-young's voice echoed through the system. This concludes our demonstration. Any other species wishing to test human capabilities may do so. We have 11 more Colossus-Class ships under construction. The alien fleets did not retreat. They fled in absolute panic. For the first time in galactic history, species that had conquered entire sectors of space ran from a single enemy vessel. The age of alien dominance was over. The time of human ascendancy had begun. The news of the Crimson Dominance's destruction spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, every major civilization knew that the most powerful warship in known space had been erased from existence by humans. The species everyone had dismissed as primitive metalworkers had revealed technology that transcended understanding. On the homeworld of the Velkari Empire, Emperor Zalthmor convened an emergency session of his war council. The blue-skinned ruler had conquered 47 star systems through superior firepower. Now his generals brought reports that made no sense. The humans did not use energy weapons, reported Admiral Yextar, one of the few survivors of the battle. They changed reality itself. Our shields cannot protect against enemies who can alter the laws of physics. Impossible, snarled the Emperor. Physics cannot be changed. It is absolute. With respect, my lord, replied the Admiral quietly. The humans have proven otherwise. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. The Hirani Collective's queen mothers gathered in their great hive chambers, clicking mandibles in nervous agitation. Their vast fleets of insectoid warriors meant nothing against an enemy who could make their ships forget how to exist. The crystalline beings of the Morvek Republic projected thoughts of fear and confusion. They had always believed their reality-bending powers made them superior to other species. Now they learned that humans could bend reality far more effectively than any crystal-born mind. On Nexus Prime, the emergency session of what used to be the Galactic Council had been renamed the Terran Accommodation Council. The change in name reflected the new reality. The aliens were no longer governing the galaxy. They were trying to find ways to coexist with humanity. Captain Jin Woo of the Human Colonial Administration stood before the assembled alien representatives. Behind him, holographic displays showed the locations of 12 new Colossus-Class ships under construction throughout human space. The terms are simple, he announced in a calm voice. Humanity claims no territory except what we require for our continued expansion. We demand no tribute except respectful treatment of human citizens. We seek no slaves except that all sentient beings be free to choose their own path. The aliens listened with desperate attention. These were not negotiations. They were instructions for survival. Any species that threatens these principles will face immediate correction, continued Jin Woo. The word correction sent shivers through the assembled delegates. They had learned what human correction looked like. The crew of the Crimson Dominance still existed somewhere between dimensions, experiencing forms of existence that had no names. Ambassador Thexmar raised a shaking hand. What if territorial disputes arise between our species? Who will mediate? Disputes between non-human species will be resolved as they always have been, replied Jin Woo. Humanity will only intervene if human interests are threatened or if we are specifically asked to mediate. Queen Speaker Zixilla's voice buzzed with nervous energy. What about our existing territories? Will humans respect our current borders? As long as those territories are governed with respect for sentient life, answered Jin Woo. Species that practice slavery, genocide, or unnecessary warfare may find their political structures subject to correction. The implications were staggering. Humanity was not just claiming military supremacy, they were establishing themselves as the moral authority for the entire galaxy. Any civilization that failed to meet human standards of behavior could be erased from existence. Dr. Young-Sik stepped forward to address questions about technology sharing. Certain human technologies will be made available to willing partners. Medical advances, agricultural improvements, and basic manufacturing techniques can benefit all species. What about military technology? Asked a delegate from the Corvan hegemony. The Colossus-Class ships and their reality manipulation capabilities remain exclusively human, replied Young-Sik firmly. However, we will share defensive technologies that can protect your worlds from natural disasters and hostile environments. The message was clear. Humans would help other species improve their lives, but they would never give away the weapons that made human dominance possible. Admiral Hye-Jin appeared via holographic transmission from the construction yards of Mars. Behind her, the skeleton of a new Colossus-class vessel stretched into the distance. Construction of the second wave of ships is proceeding on schedule, she announced. Each vessel will be assigned to patrol a different galactic sector. Patrol for what purpose? Asked Prime Crystal Kethnos. To ensure compliance with human standards, replied Hye-Jin, and to respond to requests for assistance from species that choose to work with humanity rather than against us. The Terra's wrath hung in space near Nexus Prime like a metal mountain, its presence a constant reminder of humanity's new position in the galaxy. Ships from dozens of species approached it daily, carrying diplomats who wanted to establish formal relations with Earth. Commander Yun-Su had been promoted to captain and now served as humanity's primary diplomatic liaison aboard the massive vessel. Her office received a constant stream of requests for meetings, trade agreements, and protection pacts. The Yorthak Federation wants to trade their quantum computing technology for our medical advances, she reported to Admiral Tae-Young. The Solarian Republic is offering to share their star mapping databases in exchange for agricultural improvements. Approve both requests, replied the Admiral. Humanity benefits when all species prosper peacefully. But not all approaches were friendly. The Corvan hegemony, a militaristic empire built on conquest and slavery, had sent threatening messages demanding that humans withdraw from their sectors of space. Dr. Hyun-Woo monitored their communications from his quantum laboratory. The Corvans are mobilizing their fleet, he reported. Intelligence suggests they plan to attack our colony ships. Admiral Tae-Young considered this information carefully. How many Corvan ships are involved? Approximately 8,000 vessels, replied Hyun-Woo. Their entire military force. I see. And how many Colossus-class ships do we have operational? 3, sir. The Terra's Wrath, the Soul's Hammer, and the Earth's Shield. Tae-Young smiled grimly. That should be sufficient. Prepare a correction operation. The Corvan fleet never reached human space. They simply vanished one day while traveling through an empty sector. No distress signals, no battle reports. No evidence of what had happened to 8,000 warships and their crews. Later investigation revealed that the entire fleet had been translated into a pocket dimension where time moved extremely slowly. The Corvan warriors would spend subjective millennia contemplating their actions before being returned to normal space. When they emerged, they would remember every moment of their long imprisonment and understand the consequences of threatening humanity. News of the Corvan fleet's disappearance spread terror throughout the galaxy. Humanity could make entire armies vanish without a trace. No defense could protect against enemies who controlled the fundamental forces of reality. The Interspecies University was established on a neutral world in the galactic core. Human professors taught alien students the basics of quantum physics and dimensional mathematics. Most alien minds could not grasp the advanced concepts, but a few brilliant individuals began to understand the principles behind human technology. Dr. Min Seo, who had been the navigation officer aboard the Terra's Wrath, now served as the university's dean. We cannot teach you to build Colossus-class ships, she explained to her students, but we can help you understand the universe in new ways. The psychological effects of human superiority were profound. Alien species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia suddenly felt like children learning from cosmic adults. Some civilizations embraced this new relationship. eagerly studying human science and philosophy. Others retreated into isolation, unable to accept their diminished status. The most disturbing reports came from alien psychiatric facilities. Thousands of beings suffered from a new condition that doctors called reality displacement syndrome. These individuals could no longer trust their perceptions of the universe, knowing that humans could change the basic rules of existence at will. One young alien cadet approached her instructor after a lesson on pre-human galactic history. "Teacher," she asked innocently, "what were humans like before they built their terrible ships?" The instructor, a veteran of the old galactic assembly, paused for a long moment. His eyes held memories of a time when his species had believed they were masters of the universe. "Child," he whispered, his voice filled with hard-earned wisdom. "Those ships did not make humans dangerous. Humans built those ships because they were already the most terrifying species in the universe. We just did not know it yet. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity not because of their weapons, but because of their minds. While other species had accepted the limitations of reality, humans had decided to transcend them. They had not just built better tools, they had evolved beyond the constraints that trapped every other form of life. In the end, the universe belonged to humanity, because humans were the only species that had asked the right questions. While aliens learned to manipulate matter and energy, humans had learned to manipulate the rules that governed matter and energy.